Power sharing. Power sharing means the distribution of power amongst the organs of government, such as the legislature, executive, and judiciary. Power sharing helps in activity and achieving the stability of political order. In power sharing, power might even be shared at distinct levels such as union, state, and local. Merits of power sharing. First point. No single community can take decision unilaterally. Second point. It is realized that unity of country is only possible by respecting feelings and interests of different communities. Third point. Reduces conflict between different social groups. Fourth point. Stability of political order is achieved. Fifth point. Better outcome. Sixth point. People have right to be consulted for governing practices. Seventh point. All have a voice in shaping public policies. Eighth point. People rule themselves through institution of self-governance. Demerits of power sharing. First point. It led to a feeling between citizens that the sharing of power which makes a country weaker than it would be if power rested in one hand. Second point. It also led to a misunderstanding between the council of various organs. Third point. It also led to thinking that it poses a risk to nation's unity. Fourth point. It also sometimes led to conflict between two states, two districts, or even cities or locality.
Belgium and Sri Lanka. Belgium. It is a small country in Europe. It has borders with France, Netherlands, Germany, and Luxembourg. The ethnic composition is very complex. It has a population of little over 1 crore. 59% population lives in the Flemish region, speaks Dutch language. 40% people live in the Wallonia region and speak French. Remaining 1% of the Belgians speak German. In the Brazil, 80% people speak French, while 20% are Dutch speaking. Ethnicity. It is a social division based on shared culture. People belonging to the same ethnic group believe in their common descent because of similarities of physical type or of culture or both. They need not always have the same religion or nationality. Sri Lanka. It is an island nation. It is just a few kilometers off the southern coast of Tamil Nadu. It has about 2 crore people. It has a diverse population. The major social groups are Sinhala speakers 70%, 74%, and Tamil speakers 18%. Among Tamils, there are 2 subgroups, Sri Lankan Tamils 13% and Indian Tamils. Most of the Sinhala speaking are Buddhist, while most of the Tamils are Hindus or Muslims. There are about 7% Christians who are both Tamil and Sinhala. Problem faced by Sri Lanka and Belgium. In Belgium, the minority French-speaking community was relatively rich and powerful. This was resented by the Dutch-speaking community who got the benefit of economic development and education much later. In the Brazil's capital city presented a specific problem. The Dutch-speaking people constituted a majority in the country, but a minority in the capital. In Belgium, the Dutch community could take advantage of its numeric majority and force its will on the French and German speaking population. This would push the conflict among communities further. This could lead to very messy partition of the country. Both the sides would claim control over Brazil. In Sri Lanka, the Sinhala community enjoyed an even bigger majority and could impose its will on the entire country. Power sharing models of Belgium and Sri Lanka. Belgium. They adopted a policy of power sharing. They gave equal powers to all communities, minor or major doesn't matter. It solved the problem. Sri Lanka. They adopted a policy of majoritarianism. They gave preferences to the majority Sinhala group alone, disregarding the minority. It only increased the problem.
Sri Lanka, as we mentioned earlier, is an island nation just a few kilometers off the southern coast of Tamil Nadu. The social groups found in Sri Lanka are Sinhala speakers and Tamil speakers. Sinhala was the majority social group in Sri Lanka. Majoritarianism in Sri Lanka, a belief that the majority community should be able to rule a country in whichever way it wants by disregarding the wishes and needs of the minority. The leaders of Sinhala community sought to secure dominance of a government by the virtue of majority. At last, the government adopted a series of majoritarianism and finally established the Sinhala supremacy. In the year of 1956, an act was passed to recognize Sinhala as the only official language to be used in Sri Lanka and disregarding the Tamil. The government followed preferential policies that favored Sinhala applicants for university positions and government jobs. A new constitution stipulated that the state shall protect and foster Buddhism. These government measures, coming one after the other, gradually increased the feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils. They felt that none of the political parties led by the Buddhist Sinhala leaders was sensitive to their language and culture. They even felt like they were left out from the society. They felt that the constitution and government policies denied them equal political rights, discriminated against them in getting jobs and other opportunities, and ignored their interests. As a result, the relations between Sinhala and Tamil communities strained over time. Finally, the Sri Lankan Tamils launched parties and struggles for the recognition of Tamil as an official language for regional autonomy and equality of opportunity in securing education and jobs. But their demand for more autonomy to provinces populated by the Tamils was repeatedly denied by the government. By 1980, several political organizations were formed demanding an independent Tamil Eelam in northern and eastern parts of Sri Lanka. At last, the distrust between two communities turned into a widespread conflict, and it soon turned into a civil war. As a result, thousands of people of both the communities have been killed. Many families were forced to leave the country as refugees, and many more lost their livelihoods. Civil war is a violent conflict between two opposing groups within a country that becomes so intense that it appears like a war. Finally, it ended in 2009.
Why power sharing is desirable? Power sharing is desirable because it helps to reduce the possibility of conflict between social groups. Since social conflict eventually leads to political instability, power sharing ensures the stability of the political order. Power sharing is the very spirit of democracy. Imposing the will of the majority community over others may look like an attractive option in the short run, but in the long run, it undermines the unity of nation. Tyranny of the majority is not only oppressive for the minority, but it also brings ruin to the majority. Reason: it upholds the spirit of democracy in a truly democratic setup. The citizen to have a stake in governance. In India, the citizen can come together to debate and criticize the policies and decisions of government. This in turn puts pressure on the government to rethink its policies and reconsider its decisions. People have a right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. A legitimate government is one where citizens through participation acquire a stake in the system. Accommodation in Belgium. Belgian leaders recognize the difference that existed in the region and culture accepts. So they amended their constitution 4 times, so as they enable everyone to live together within the same country. Some of the elements of the Belgian model are: Constitution prescribes that the number of Dutch and French-speaking ministers shall be equal in the central government. Many powers of the central government have been given to state government of the two regions of the country. The state government are not subordinate to central government. Brussels have a separate government in which both the community have equal representation. The French-speaking people accepted equal representation in Brussels because the Dutch-speaking community has accepted equal representation in the central government. A third kind of government called community government is elected by peoples belonging to one language community, no matter where they live. This government deals with language-related issues.
Forms of power sharing. There are different forms of power sharing in modern democracies. First one, horizontal distribution of power sharing. In this form of power sharing, the power is shared among different organs of government such as legislative, executive, and judiciary. There should be a system of checks and balances with each other. Second one, vertical distribution of power sharing. In this form of power sharing, power is shared among different levels of government such as central government, state government and local self-government. Third one, power sharing among different social groups. Under this arrangement, government and administration give space to the diverse social groups. Fourth one, power sharing between political parties, pressure groups and movements. In democracy, different parties compete to come to power. Conclusion. The forms of power sharing are the most important parts of the democracy. It brings up the good changes in governance.